I'm not known as the person to cook, right? And it's funny because like I had some of my friends and coworkers kind of joking like, oh, you will once you get married or once you have kids. It's kind of like it was expected of me.
Right.
And for some reason, I just felt like that's a role I had to take on.
I think it's because that's what society tells us is the role of a woman, right? And you want to be a good wife to your spouse, right? That means you're supposed to take care of them. And one way to take care of them is by cooking and providing a meal for them.
And cleaning and, and...
It's a neutral activity, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're a guy and you cook doesn't make you any less of a man.
Yeah.
But for some reason in our head, like when we associate a certain activity, there's like a gender tied to it. And if it's not what we expect it to be, we think less of that person for some reason.
Hi, welcome to the Magnetic Mismatch Show. This is Linda.
And this is Will. And before you do anything else, make sure to follow us on our Instagram page at Magnetic Mismatch. And also to subscribe to our podcast, because it's amazing and you're amazing. So subscribe. Did you like that? I gotta plug our show, But man, we're still laughing because this is our 15th take?
Because I can't
of the intro.
Because I can't stop laughing.
Oh, that's so funny. It happens. We should just create a blooper reel, man.
I think I just had too much caffeine.
Seriously, as soon as you were drinking your caffeine and you had a coffee and now you have a boba and it's just like, okay, you're a little too hyper right now. That was pretty funny though.
Maybe I'll have the energy to watch Bling Empire.
Yes, please hurry. You're like, I've been trying to convince her to watch this new show. It's really good. It's better than I thought, actually. I'll admit I was a little skeptical at first because it's trashy TV, right? And it's like, oh God, it's one of these shows. It's kind of like they frame it as like a Kardashian show, right? Except it's with Asians. Like it's like a spin-off of Crazy Rich Asians. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, oh God. But then I gave it a chance. I watched it and I was like, damn, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not like, Grammy Award winning or anything like, not Grammy Award, is it? Oscar winning. Grammy's music.
Isn't Oscar the movie?
Oscars winning. Emmys. Yeah, you're right.
Emmys
is it Emmys?
Well, that's
God, we're horrible with TV shows. Okay.
Okay, don't listen to us on that.
Yeah. We'll skip that part.
That's not our expertise.
But anyways, yeah. So get on that show because, even in our hangouts, right? We did a hangout this weekend with a couple of friends and...
Zoom
hangouts, to be clear.
Let's clarify.
Right, before people jump on us.
Yeah. So we had 2 Zoom hangouts this weekend and... they had to tiptoe around talking about that show because they didn't want to ruin it for me. And I felt a little bad.
Everybody else had watched the show and we wanted to talk about it and we couldn't because you didn't watch it yet.
I was the only one.
Yeah. And you didn't feel bad?
No. Why? I don't think I'm going to watch it.
Oh,
just to piss you off.
Rebel. Well, I even offered her that I'll rewatch the series with you.
Anyway. I just watched a really good show, though.
Which is?
Bridgerton.
Because you've been watching a lot of shows. Yes, that is a really good show. And you pronounced it incorrectly. It's Bridgerton. Dude, our UK listeners are probably like, don't ever do that again, Will. Like,
thanks to you, they probably just turned off
unsubscribed.
The podcast. Yeah, thank you.
No, that's actually a surprisingly really good show. Like, that's not the type of show I normally watch, but I saw it on Netflix as a top show and I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. Why is this so popular? Watched the first episode and I was like, oh, okay, this is good.
So the one thing, if you don't know, Will loves watching movies and TV shows. So
some would call me a pop
connoisseur
of pop culture, right? And TV shows. And yeah, there's always people are like, have you seen the show? I'm like, yeah, I already did. And I thought blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you do all day?
I was convincing Will to make like TikTok videos on like the shows, and I'm like, I'll manage your channel.
Interesting. But why do you bring up the show? What's so cool about or why are you bringing up Bridgerton?
Okay, so I was watching that show and I just find it highly interesting. Just because we were I was laughing at that show and telling you that, oh my God, I wouldn't survive that era.
Yeah.
So if you don't know the show, let me just take it back. Just to give you a little blurb on what it's about so you can better understand, but without going into too much detail. So
because it relates to our topic today. So
yeah, and I don't want to ruin the show for you. But so it's basically taking place during the Regency era, right?
Yes.
In the 1800s.
In London.
In
right?
London, right? And these are high society people.
So pinkies up. Tea time and pinkies up.
So think like extravagant balls. And when they throw these balls, it's basically like a debut party for these debutantes who are women at the age that they're quote unquote ready to get married off. Right. And so
so the whole point of them throwing these like this giant party or ball and why everybody gets dolled up in like fancy gowns and have tons of good food and all that, right?
It's like basically a courting event.
It's showing them off, right?
Yeah, showing them off, and the guys are there. They're trying to get to know each other, right? And they're trying to get basically courted by a guy.
So
or
so they're like flaunting the girl. She's flaunting her stuff to try to attract an eligible bachelor, basically.
Exactly.
Oh, this is old school bachelor then, right? Kind of like
but non trashy
bachelorette, I guess in this case. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but very sophisticated, right? And the goal is to get married into a good family. So
it's a lot of pressure, man.
Yeah, and your reputation means everything in this society. So if you marry into a good family, that means that your family's
set. Yeah.
you're number one set financially and you're taken care of, and two, they also uplift your family's reputation, right? It's like it's one of those. And if you marry wrong, or if you tarnish the family's reputation, it doesn't just affect you. It affects your entire family and all your siblings.
Whew.
So there's a lot of pressure, to get it right.
Yeah.
Right. And
damn, and these girls are 16 years old, right? Like that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
to put on
that's a lot
somebody.
of pressure. And in the show you can see there's this character, her name is Eloise. Her sister is Daphne, which is like the main character of this season. And her sister is like the ultimate debutante, right? She's perfect. She has manners.
Elegant.
She's elegant.
Beautiful.
She's smart. She's beautiful. She knows how to play this game, right? And then you have the sister Eloise, who's like
tomboy.
She's screaming, down the hall for her sister. She doesn't share her snacks. She questions the society, like why do I have to just to marry a guy to take care of me? She questions that. And she also questions, why can't I be the one going to college? Right? Why can't I be the one who starts a business?
Right.
And this society was so linear that even if her opinion gets out, that could mean that could completely tarnish her reputation.
Right. Yeah, because it's so against the grain, and especially in that era and during that time, you know, the expectation of a woman, right? Like their role in society is to get married into a household and
Bear children.
yeah, bear children for the family. And if there is anything beyond that, that's outside of the norm, that's taboo, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like you get outcasted,
Yeah.
you get shunned, probably, right?
Yeah. And her role is always to make the husband look good. And
And to
she's
make the
always,
husband happy.
yeah, and she's always taking like a second to that.
That's the premise of the show. And it kind of showed and highlighted, I think, how black and white women and men were treated and
Mm-hmm.
what their roles were expected to be in society. And even though this was like in the 1800s, I think what's surprising is that we're in 2021 and I still feel like there's a lot of gender roles in
Yeah.
today's society. We've gotten better, right?
Yeah.
But I still feel like it's still there.
Yeah. Because, you know, the logical thing to think about, you know, for gender roles or any role, right? Or you
Mhm.
hope for any role is based on merit.
Right.
And even on this show, one of the families, the Bridgerton, the main family, the father actually passed away,
Right.
right? And logically, you would think it's the mom that's going to take over and run the household because she's the most experienced, right?
Mhm.
But instead, it's the son
The oldest son.
who has no idea what he's doing, and you know he plays so much into this gender role, and think that it's his obligation to make all the decisions, even though he doesn't know what he's doing, and he completely discounts the mom's opinion, even though she knows more than him, and
He could use her help, right?
exactly.
Like,
But no, but it's in this society, it's like women didn't even have a voice almost.
right.
So the fact that he discounted her input, it almost put the family in danger. I'm not gonna go into too much
Yeah,
details.
don't spoil it for
I'm not gonna spoil
everybody,
it. But yeah, he put the family in danger because he didn't take her
of
advice
his actions and
his actions. And you know, there's another situation where the guy was this
the head of the household.
head of the household. He takes care of all their finances, but he was gambling away all their money. And the wife had no idea. But when she found out, she was questioning him. And he completely discounted
her concerns, she brought up some good points and she just wanted to know, like, hey, like, are we okay? And you know, like that's totally like
because it affects her and the family. Yeah.
Well, and the kids and everybody in the household, including their workers that live in their household, all depend on this one person, the head of the household. Usually it's the man, right?
Yeah.
And he's in charge of all of that, the future of this estate.
Yeah, and you know, because of his gambling habits and certain things that he got into, he actually got killed. And now the after his passing, they're faced with having no money.
Yeah,
and
bankruptcy,
they're on their
ruin.
own. And in this world, it's not like she could remarry. Like she doesn't have any skills because the woman didn't get to go to college, right? And it's like, even though they didn't show it, but I'm like concerned for their future.
Right. And that's crazy because all of that your future rests on somebody else. And you, in this case, you have no idea what they're doing with the finances or any of that stuff. But you can't ask questions. You can't get involved because that's not your role.
Yeah.
Women don't even have a voice. You can't even ask about that stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, I do recognize that's like an extreme case, right? But so bringing it back to today's society, things have changed. You know, there's a lot of women that are educated, business owners, protectors. But then for some reason, these generals, I still feel like they play a huge part in our society still.
Yeah, because I think like traditionally, when you think of a woman, right? What were they expected, right? What are some traditional roles of a woman? They're supposed to not work, right? Number one, they're supposed to only have kids, right? They're supposed to
Take care of the kids.
take care of the kids, do feminine things.
Whatever that means.
Right.
Yeah.
That means doing the laundry, cooking, that kind of stuff,
Cleaning.
right? Because the man of the household wouldn't have to do that. All his job was
To bring home
to bring home the bacon, right?
Yeah.
To
the breadwinner.
be the breadwinner, be the one to work, be the one to be that has a career. And when he comes home, the wife, her job, it was to make sure he's taken care of. He doesn't have to lift a finger when he's home because he already worked.
Yeah.
Right. So those were the traditional roles. And then we fast forward to today, where you were getting to was how things change.
Yeah. So, in today's society, right, there's women are working and so are the men. So the frustration comes from, it's like, wait a minute, why do I have to do the cooking and cleaning when he's just sitting there sipping on his scotch?
Wait, is that a jab at me?
No, it's not a jab at you, but that's where some of our arguments stem from in the beginning of our marriage.
And we've talked about it before in some
and it's not a surprise. Yeah. It's like, as educated as I am and, a strong woman, working woman, I don't know what made me feel like I had to take on these quote unquote feminine jobs in the house. So let's just backtrack a little. So when I was living before Will and I got married, I hardly ever did any cooking.
Spoiled.
Because, I had my parents for that, right? My parents.
You were so lucky.
Yeah. I know, so lucky.
But yes.
And then, they're very nurturing, and, my parents, they did the dishes a lot of, I helped too, but, if they knew that I was tired, they would do it because they were slowing down in their career already.
Yeah.
By the time, towards the end. So I was used to getting spoiled, but then suddenly we got married. We moved into this apartment. I don't know why what got into me. I just felt like I had to do all the cooking and cleaning, and that's when I got overwhelmed.
And I need to defend myself here. I never asked you to do any of that stuff.
No, in all fairness, yeah, Will never asked me to do any cooking.
I didn't expect it either. I really didn't. Because prior, like you said, before we got married, we didn't live together. So I was living on my own. I was making my own meals. I was cooking my own dinner and stuff like that.
You were doing your own cleaning.
And so I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember that you started making dinner. I think it was the first week we were here that we moved into the new place. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet of her. That's nice. Like, I didn't say it, right? But I was thinking it. And I'm like, cool. I'm going to go and, I can't. Because what had happened was I offered to help you, but you snapped at me. You're like, get away. You're just getting in the way. Because, you have your own methodology.
Yeah, it's because in my defense, like when I'm cooking, it's like very efficient. It's like, I'm
slowing you down.
Basically. Yeah, I can't have him in the way because I'm like, you're slowing me down.
It's hard. You're right. Having two people in the kitchen, and if you're not usually cooked together, right? You're not used to it.
It's not like our kitchen is huge either.
Yeah.
So, and in my head, I'm like, I just need to get through this task, right?
Right. So
and
go away.
You're slowing me down. So now it's like, I feel like I have even more work.
Right. So I went to sip scotch, okay? Like on the side, watching a damn Netflix show.
Yeah. And then after, a week of this, the frustration started building up and I just snapped.
But what made you feel like that's what you needed to do? Because usually when you got home late, from work, right? And when you got home, you started cooking. What made you feel like you had to do that?
I really don't know. I felt
did you want to do that, or was it just like
a part of me felt like I was obligated to do that for some reason.
As a wife?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's crazy. I'm like,
Was it maybe because like
If
was that like that in your household growing up, like with your parents?
No, actually, my dad did most of the cooking,
Okay.
right? So I don't know why in my head, I kind of do know why because I was talking to when people because people know me like
Uh-huh.
I'm not known as the person to cook, right? And it's funny because like I had some of my friends and coworkers kind of joking like, oh, you will once you get married or once you have kids. It's kind of like it was expected of me.
Right.
And for some reason I just felt like that's a role I had to take on.
I think it's because that's what society tells us is the role of a woman, right? Or of a wife, of a good wife. And you want to be a good wife to your spouse, right? Which is that means you're supposed to take care of them. And one way to take care of them is by cooking and providing a meal for
And
them.
cleaning and
Mhm.
and
But that means that, see, that's the thing, right? Who said cooking is supposed to be specific to a gender? Meaning it's a neutral activity, right?
yeah,
Just because you're a guy and you cook doesn't make you any less of a man.
yeah,
But for some reason in our head, like when we associate a certain activity, there's like a gender tied to it. And if it's not what we expect it to be, we think less of that person for some reason. Like in your case, I feel like this is my perspective, seeing what you're talking about. Maybe for you, it was like a part of you was like, if I'm not cooking, I'm less feminine. Would you
yeah.
say that's true or no? Or am I jumping
Or you know
to
what?
conclusions
And
here?
a part of me, I think it's subconscious. A part of me also didn't want to get judged by other females. The ones
Oh,
that were telling me you're gonna start cooking and cleaning, or
uh-huh.
I didn't want to be like,
Actually, Will does that for us.
actually, Will does that for us, and you know what? And if he doesn't, we're gonna starve, or I'm gonna just DoorDash my food,
Uh-huh.
or I'm gonna go get takeout.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I've made it a point to go pick it up because to help the restaurant. So I'm not gonna. I take back the DoorDash, or do takeout. Go to the pick up some food, but then it's like I feel that judgment.
Hmm.
Or when I talk about it, it's like, well, oh, what are you guys eating today? Oh, I'm gonna do takeout. I'm gonna order extra food for us tonight.
So
Yeah,
some people might judge you as you're not a good wife, or or imagine if we had kids. It's like, wait, why aren't you cooking
yeah,
instead of like
exactly. And
taking takeout?
it's funny because like when I talk about this to even guys, right? And if I tell them, oh, they're like towards the end of the day, sometimes like even some of my guy coworkers are like, oh, so what are you cooking tonight, or what are you guys eating? Oh, I'm doing takeout. They're like, really, you're not gonna cook anything?
Hmm.
And I just felt like this pressure to have to live up to whatever society standard of being a wife, a woman is. and
Hmm.
and even though that wasn't me, I just felt like that's what I had to do.
Interesting. But that's also where, like you were saying, you did that for like a week.
It did not work out.
It
No.
didn't. It clearly was not you
No.
because you exploded and I got yelled at for not helping with some of the household, activities that are traditionally, well, again, I don't want to offend anybody, right? But traditionally in societal standards meant to be done by women.
Yeah. But that's the power of these generals in
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
Even though it sometimes
It makes no sense,
in
right?
certain
Yeah.
cases it doesn't make sense, right? Why does it make sense for me? Well,
You have to be the one sweeping because you're a
I
female.
know, or
It's
like, wait, it's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Why am I starting to cook meals now and we eat at like 11? It doesn't make any sense. But then yet we feel like we have to conform to
Mhm.
these norms because it's so powerful. And yet, like we talk about generals, like extreme generals happening in the 1800s. We're in 2021, and
Yeah.
yet it still has
It's
such
so
a
ingrained in
strong
us. Yeah.
presence in today's society.
But do you think that that's society, or do you think that's biological?
I guess you can sit here and argue that it's both, but in my defense is that if you look at certain animals, right?
Because we're all animals. We're still animals.
Yeah, but like certain groups of animals,
Yeah.
right? It's like the father is the one that takes care of the child.
Huh.
Or you have female hunters, or
Right.
you have female protectors. Like
Right.
let's say
Like lions
Yeah.
and lionesses.
exactly, you would not want to mess with a cub, right?
Yeah. Or like a bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a mama bear.
Yeah, they will attack you.
Right.
And-
Whereas, as a female, you would think, oh, they're supposed to be like nurturing and gentle, and which they are. I'm not saying they're not, right? But they're like, the role in the animal kingdom is they will rip your face off if you mess with one of their cubs, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like there's animals where they don't even need the male. Like the black widow, she'll eat the male after she gives birth or something. That's what happens.
Isn't that the same thing with like the mantis, the
I'm not
giant
sure.
praying mantis?
Maybe.
Maybe that's the one you're thinking of.
No, the black widow too. That's
Also?
how it got
Oh.
its name. It's a widow.
Whew. Yeesh. Scary.
So it's kind of like you can argue, oh, it's ingrained into us,
Our
but
DNA.
but that's not true, because if you look at all these, different animals in the animal kingdom, like they have different roles in every tribe or groups or.
Because I was going to say that, like, for me, again, I don't know if this is just what I learned through watching my parents, because I think my parents did have more traditional like household like roles. My dad was the main breadwinner. My mom, she actually also worked, but she also was expected, right, to provide and cook the meals at home, to take care of the household as well, and all that stuff. So maybe that's something that I learned from growing up in a household like that, and society and media and all that stuff, where I, as a male, feel like I'm supposed to be the protector, supposed to be the provider for the family. And that doesn't mean that you as my spouse can't take on those roles. I think for me, though, it's just I would feel weird if I didn't put on those hats, if I didn't have that title within the family.
Yeah.
Like for example, if we were in a situation where, let's say, I could no longer work, God forbid, right? And I can't bring money into the household. But now I'm in the situation where I have to take care of the house at home. I think initially I'd have a hard time. My ego would be hurt. I think a part of it.
Yeah.
A part of my ego would be hurt. I'm just being honest, like how I think I might feel. And I'd probably feel like a little emasculated maybe. But again, like why should I feel emasculated if like I'm the one maybe changing the diapers, taking care of the kids at home or whatever. We don't have kids yet, but I'm just saying, like, if we did have kids and I'm like, all right, well, I can't go work, so I'm going to take care of all the household stuff, you know?
But see, that's the part that kind of bothers me, right? Is that when I look at a situation like that, it's like why does society judge or I would dare to say sometimes even look down on a stay-at-home dad, right? It's like wait, why can't he work? Like why can't he go into the workforce? Like why does she have to go into the workforce? But when you really break down the nature of a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom, or well, I guess less of a stay-at-home mom, because if you tell someone I'm a stay-at-home mom, there's no question about it.
There is no questioning.
It's like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm glad your husband or your significant other or whoever can take care of you so you can stay home. But when the role gets reversed and the guy is like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home dad, it's like, wait, Why
Right.
can't are you
There's
not
questions.
are you not good enough to be in the workforce?
I think
Are
people,
you
you're right. There could be gossip, right? People will, your natural instinct is like, well, what's wrong, right? Or why is he blank?
Yes.
They start making assumptions or judgments about like maybe even his masculinity, right?
Mhm.
You know, they think less of him
Yeah.
because he maybe, and it's maybe it could be a complete decision between the two spouses that, you know what, it makes more sense for us, for you to stay home and for me to go to
Yeah.
work.
Or maybe he's taking on the role of a stay-at-home dad
Because he enjoys it.
because he enjoys it, or he wants to give his wife or his significant other a chance
To
to
grow.
continue to refine her skills, right? Because
Right.
because when
As a
you
supportive spouse.
exactly
Yeah.
because when you step away from the workforce, it's really hard to re-enter that workforce.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and especially when you have a gap in employment history,
Right.
right? And he understands that maybe, and or maybe they're switching off.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like society will look at that situation. I'm not saying everybody, right, will
And
look at it that way.
yeah, and it's not right.
Yeah,
We're
and it's
not saying
not
it's
right.
no.
But I think, and we're getting better, right? It's becoming more acceptable for example, in that case, right, for stay-at-home dads, or it's a role reversal, right?
Mhm.
Where but I'm just saying, like, I know that the initial reaction is not a positive one.
Yeah.
Right. If somebody sees that
And
happening.
I think we should rewire that, right?
Right.
Because there is monetary value for him to stay at home
Mhm.
because they don't have to spend money on a nanny. So if you break down how much, a private nanny would cost, right? A person who stays at home, do the cooking, cleaning, cooking,
That's a lot of jobs actually, all in one.
taking the kids to school, to activities, to this, to that, right? That's almost like a private nanny, a chef,
Right.
it's like a lot of things combined. And
Yeah.
there's it's a huge monetary value there.
Yeah, and it doesn't make him any less of a man.
Absolutely
But I'm just
not.
saying that's the truth, right? It doesn't
That's
make
the
him less
truth.
of a man. In some places, you might argue it makes him more of a man. The fact that he's helping because he's willing to see this is going to be for the benefit of the family.
Mhm.
It's not about my own ego, right? I don't care how I'm perceived. I care about my family,
The wellness of my
the well-being of my family, the support for my wife because I love her, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff. Or like in the other case where, let's say, traditionally a man is the protector, right? And let's say I don't know, I think I saw this on a TV show.
You know what?
Is it Fresh Prince?
No, I think that happened on Bridgerton too, where Daphne, the guy was trying to harass her, and she
like molest her or something.
yeah, and she just punches him in the face, and he knocked out.
Her love interest in the show, the Duke was he saw this, like, her getting like harassed, right?
Uh-huh.
And something's about to go down, and so he starts storming over, like, I'm gonna be the man,
her,
right? Like,
yeah.
to protect her. And then she ends up like socking the dude in the face, knocking him out, right?
Yeah.
Her aggressor. And then he's like, whoa, that shocked him, right? Like, because that's not something you would expect.
Yeah.
So does that make her, if somebody saw that, it's like, is she more manly? Is she more masculine? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like people would initially think that, oh, she's less feminine.
But even on the show, right? She was embarrassed. She didn't
to
admit that she knocked out a guy because that would tarnish her reputation. No one would want to marry her.
She's a brute. She's unrefined.
Exactly. So
they question her femininity, right? At that point.
Yeah. So she even asked that he doesn't tell anybody what he saw. These
things are so deeply ingrained in us that why should an activity be specific to a certain gender? I don't think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Or for example, like nowadays people, like guys there's like different interests, right? Like crocheting or like doing certain things that are considered a man's sport or a woman's thing. Right? I feel like now we've gotten better. We've made improvements towards that, right? Where you see more of the opposite sex in that type of sport or
Yeah.
industry or hobby. And it's more acceptable now. We're not quite there yet, in terms of full acceptance, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's also important, as you take on or do something and
Mhm.
you feel like out of place, or it's just, I think we should just always take a step back and kind of think about why do I feel this way? Right? Is it right, or is it so deeply ingrained into me and society
Yeah.
that I feel like I shouldn't do this, or I can't do this?
I think part of it too, and I'm just speaking personally, like I feel like it's more of protecting my ego
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, like, or also like, how would other people look at me and judge me kind of thing, right? That's my own kind of holdup,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if, for example, in that case where we were talking about like, oh, or maybe like, a car breaks down and then, you are the one that changes the tires, or, you know more about cars than I do. And I'm just kind of like, I feel like people will judge me for that, for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you fix that? Is
I
it
think
fixable? Is it even something?
I don't know if it's fixable, because I think stuff like this takes time. But I think the more you embrace it and accept it, it will help open up other people's minds.
Yeah. And I think what we should clarify is that this is our opinion about it, right?
Yeah.
Because I do know people that are perfectly happy with having a segregation of gender roles, right? Like they're perfectly happy with, I'm the wife and this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to do it, and I enjoy doing that
But I understand that
for the family.
Like even when we brought it back to the animals, right? The
Yeah.
animal kingdom, like everybody has a role and a responsibility, right? Because it gives you purpose.
Sure. And it's clearly defined. You're
Yeah.
not stepping on someone else's toes.
Exactly. So I do see the importance of defining your role is, but
It should be based on gender.
yeah, exactly. But if you feel like the gender norms is what makes you happy,
Mm-hmm.
that's absolutely fine. Right? But all I'm saying is, if that's not what you're comfortable with, or if you want to kind of break away from the norm,
Yeah.
that's okay too.
Right. Customize it to what makes sense to you and your relationship.
Yeah, like me, I don't want to go change a tire. I don't want to go kill bugs. Like, I don't want to take out the trash.
Right.
So there are things that I'm still like, oh, you can go do it when it's convenient.
Yes. That's how you operate.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is, if you're a female and you want to, I don't know, do archery or, a male sport, go for it.
Yeah.
Break the norm. It's okay. We live in a society now where it's more acceptable, and it's great that, we keep pushing these boundaries.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're fortunate enough where we live in a time where we have a lot more options, especially as females. People have fought for these rights and things like that. It's not perfect still,
Mm-hmm.
right? But yeah, I don't think we should be bound and restricted to what society tells us we should be. We should have the freedom and the choice to choose how we want to define our own roles and what makes sense to us, for sure. Okay. So I think first and foremost, again, make sure you guys subscribe to our podcast. We're available on all audio platforms, and our Instagram is @Magnetic Mismatch.
And we release a new episode every Thursday.
Yep.
So make sure to tune in and subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah.
And until next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, guys.